G'day, g'day, g'day. It's Mathematical KM here with round 8 out of 11 in the Tuggeranong Chess Club Championship. And I was playing a new to the club player, Stuart, who mostly played online. And his introduction to over the board chess was meeting that ever so elusive creature, the white hippo. Quite the introduction. So let's get started. Let's get this across to showing us at times it'll be interesting to see the computer. So I fianchetto the king's bishop, he's taking the middle, all very normal so far. That was a little bit of an interesting move. And, we live and we learn, and as we play over the board. The B pawn was perhaps not Stuart's first choice, but the old introduction to... And he picked himself up on it, to the touch move idea. Very much not something that happens when you're playing on the computer. So having decided by touching it that he needed to move the B pawn, he's advanced at the full measure. So I thought I'd better... Maybe he's a master and he's going for the 4-pawn centre in there, but let's get my B pawn forward. He brings a bishop in. To talk about a bishop being a tall pawn, it's actually not being what a tall pawn is, which is where it can't move anywhere, but that's a bishop hiding amongst the pawns, perhaps. And that's like one of my weaker pawns it's looking at, but it is protected by the king for now, and for now that's good enough. But let's do something about that. This is in Solomon's Hippo course, that whenever you get a bishop here or here, if the D or the E pawn is not out, you move it forward. Castling. And for Stuart, if he's watching... You may notice that usually white's got a little bit of an advantage in the eval, but whether you're with black or with white, because you're really not taking the space initially with the hippo, the computer doesn't like you in the evaluation very much. But this bishop, both bishops are pretty good, but that bishop is onto the E pawn, which is not at this point in time protected. And the computer in the eval punishes black a little for that, and that's because, in essence it was a blunder, because I should pick up that pawn and then come right on back. The central pawn is not protected, so there's a slap on the wrist to the hippo player for not checking his mirrors. Check your diagonals every move. And I'm pretty good at that most of the time, but I still haven't got the whole hippo setup. And I believe I'll probably play this move, getting the full development. But that central pawn was available. Could it have got weird if I took it and that pawn came forward? Back up. It's still a central pawn, it's still free, but might take me out of the middle games that I am used to. So I have finished that's the full hippo, not the full thick-skinned hippo, which needs these 2 pawns. Getting his knights to the middle, pawns out, developing his bishops. He's not doing too much wrong. And also that was good because it's protected the on-pre E-pawn. That is very much a prophylaxis move, stopping the bishop or the knight from coming in. We're trying to deny... We might not have any pieces on it, but we're doing our best to deny this whole fourth to the black team. So the white bishop comes as far as it can. and there's no knight being able to come in, but that does make the b4 pawn advance available, and it's the full thick-skinned hippo right now. Interesting. And bishop times f6 is getting rid of one of black's king's main defenders, but that leaves all this tension in there. b4 is a side issue to what's happening with the pawns, which would have to be dealt with before I did anything there. And knight to f4, developing the knight out in front, but allowing the swapping. I've instead gone with, and this is one of the main things Hippo players will do, is they'll often not castle or castle late. Look at that eval. But lock it up in the middle. And that's come with tempo as well. So the black bishop does need to move. And there goes the ball game. Of course, it ends at move 62. But the pawn formation, and that one's already forward, but have seen that in a number of games. But this is just a thing. You've got 60 minutes, which is more time than you probably normally have when you're playing your online game, Stuart, if you're watching. So you need to take that time and always look at what did, and this is putting me as Sauron, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, what did Sauron do and what threats is that making? But I don't believe you make any, particularly bad moves after this point. It's just, if I make incremental improvements and if I don't make any bad moves, well, I'm already up 4.4. It might take some time, but with good play, the white hippopotamus should emerge victorious. So let's see how that goes. That seems okay, but this is pattern recognition. It's another thing. Quite often, when you've got a bishop protecting your rook, often black will have developed their knight, and this will go better for black. Let's pretend that that knight's not there. Because if I take you, and you take me, you don't want my rook to be able to take your rook for free. And usually that won't be the case because your queen will be able to take back. But as turns out here, I take, and you've realised quite rightly that you weren't able to take back and that the problem was your knight, and so you've moved your knight. And I've just gobbled up that pawn. And you've gotten a pawn back in return. But I move my b pawn forward with tempo on your knight. Your knight goes back. And for a while, your knight really can't come forward. It's looked after by this b pawn. This is not a bad, it's pretty much an outpost. In as much, an outpost is actually a square where your piece can't be hassled by a pawn for the rest of the game. Kind of can't, because if that pawn comes forward to hassle my knight, my b pawn will just snap it off. So that's a nice place for my knight, and it is threatening this bishop. And if you're a piece up, trades are good. This bishop has to go all the way back to d7 to be okay. Or you've protected it, but again, trades are good. So let's go. Now, there's there's very small amount of hope chess in this game for me, and I guess it's not the worst move anyway. But G6 is not in the top ones. A6 is starting to push. I have kind of been going along with the idea from here as a longer term plan. If we can take all the pieces off, bar the kings, I've got these two passed pawns. One's a protected passed pawn. I should be able to get my A pawn through. So that's, why trades are good. Take all the pieces off, white wins. But for now, A6 just seems a bit premature because I'd have to look after it and fight for not so much. What I have played is getting tempo on the queen, and with any luck, and this is the hope chess, it's not vital, but I was kind of hoping the queen would move to a square where it can't see the knight. So not only will I get a trade for the knight, but I'll rip open the pawns in front of black's king. That was the main, hoping for with that pawn. Wisely, the queen's still in touch with the knight. So let's swap it off anyway. And thinking I'll be sending this pawn forward and liking a rook here and connecting the two rooks and the queen, it all feels like castling is a good idea. And it's one of the top choices there, so we've castled. He lines a rook up with my pawn and my rook. I've swung forward. Kind of half expecting en passant. The kids at the school where I teach believe that en passant is forced. Well, they don't really, but yeah. But those pawns, all those squares are no-go zones for that queen. So I'm sort of sending the pawns. He brings a knight. Now, before I do anything to that queen, I want the action to be in there. What I don't want is that queen coming out to either of these two squares. I don't want counterplay. So before I push any, and this one is if Solomon Riddell or any of the other Hippo players from his Patreon watch this, this is, what do you think of this plan of trying to seal the gap before pushing forwards? So to do that, I've moved this rook here so that I can move that pawn if he doesn't come in now. If he comes in now, I figure I've got rook here protected by the knight and attacking the queen. The pawn's protected by the queen. He'll be in danger of getting his queen trapped if he comes in now. So he's actually come in and threatening the B pawn. But the move that I've been wanting to play regardless protects the B pawn and it's sealed. So now if I somehow threaten that queen, there's no way in. So that was the thinking there. Okay, he's brought his other rook across, thinking the action's going to be in front of his king. Now, there's the idea of doubling the rook with the queen. There is also, I'm thinking about, I would like to move this pawn forward and then something like the G pawn. But however you look at it, this pawn here is protected by the queen. And right now, if the H pawn comes forward, it's not protected by anything. He's moved his queen across, so there's no chance of it even trying to come in on any diagonals there. It also allows, before I was going to have to jockey around, I think I was going to use a knight, but I can just play the h-pawn now. And if he comes across to threaten the h-pawn, he can't come here. If he goes there, then the h-pawn itself can push forward and be protected by the g-pawn. So we're getting those pawns moving forward. It's provoked a reaction. The f-pawn comes flying forwards to threaten my g-pawn. Now I don't really want to remove that one and this one, letting his rook into the picture this quickly. So I haven't quite got my other rook and queen where I need them to be before these pawns break it open. So instead, I threaten his queen with a pawn. Yes, that pawn takes, it's kind of there, but if he did do it, then he'd lose his queen, so it's not going to happen this move. So let's get that queen away. Now there's nobody threatening the h-pawn, so the g-pawn can advance. So those pawns are really getting up there. And it's at around this point I'm starting to think that if he plays the g-pawn forward, I'll probably do the h-pawn forward. And you can see it just fully locked up, the double stripe of pawns. And so we'd both be racing to get pieces over to the A and B files. And I've got passed pawns there. So that should work nicely for me. Other parts of that, the bishop, all of his pawns are on the light squares, and I know his knight covers that for now, but if I can get that bishop into the action, but that might not take part until some of the rooks and queens are off. Other thoughts at the moment, that's a strength, if I can get this knight in there. Apart from anything else, it's threatening the currently hanging pawn and the pawn which is severely protected, but if the pawn comes forward, there's always the option of taking with the B pawn and grabbing the open file. So there's all sorts of stuff over on the queen side, and if black moves that G pawn forward, we'll lock up the king side and race around to the queen side, where I believe I've got an advantage. He moves his queen away. The knight is heading for d4. Or, if tempted, c5, it all depends. But he surprised me. And I believe it's actually one of the good moves, h6. It's in there, second best. And it's considered good because if I just push forward, it's no longer sealed. The queen can get in. Not sure how much counterplay I could get, but I really don't want that queen in there near my king. And of course, if I take and he takes back, well, the kings are looking at each other. And if I can manage trades, equal trades, that works for me, and then eventually the A pawn should win it. Take. Really wasn't sure to go here or here with the bishop. Bishop h3 looks like was the better choice, and played. it's lining up on, it's for now it's heavily defended, but it is the base of that pawn chain. And we also really needed to get the bishop out of the way of getting rooks to g2. And the other reason for h3 is the king is probably going to come to h2, give a little bit of protection to the bishop, because it looks like only the queen could get in a worst case. And the king can hide behind the bishop from the queen if need be, before my pieces come across and help. So here we go. And the black king's starting to run already. As will I. I'll hide behind that bishop. Because, don't want tic-tacs or tactics with that queen coming in here, lined up on my rook. It wasn't with check initially, but yeah. Lined up on the rook, which is currently hanging, and lined up on the bishop, which is currently hanging. So, not after the king coming to h2. The king's doing the protection. He brings a rook. Now have a look at, this was a bit of a pivotal moment, and I knew that when I was thinking about it. And I want to get all the rooks and the queens off, if at all possible. And see, it goes 4, 3, 3. Best move by at least one is rook A to A2, so that I've got the two rooks joined and can come in together and do the trading off. Played. Stuart's looking to double his rooks, as you do. I bring mine across to face them. He's doubled. I attack. He takes back. I bring my other rook. He brings his queen. I take. He takes back. I bring my queen. Moves his king. I take. He takes back. This is good. What was it? 5 to 4 pieces? Not a whole lot. I mean, there's an advantage, but not as big a percentage advantage as compared to 2 pieces to 1 piece. And now, the less pieces are on the table, the more powerful these passed pawns are. So let's just get the knight into a nice little outpost, threatening one of black's pawns, and if it comes forward, I'll take, and I'll have 2 pawns that are trying to race forwards. So the king instead is starting to come, so I'll snaffle the pawn. Okay, he is threatening my e-pawn. And let's just go back a little. I did consider, I'll go forwards, he goes here, I'll go forwards, he goes here, I'll go forwards, he takes my short-lived queen. So it's not on yet. We've got to do something about that knight so that we can queen our a-pawn. Well, we grab the free pawn. Now, if his knight does race over here, then we go forwards. He comes back. We go forwards. He comes back. We go forwards. He still catches us. So he can actually go and grab that pawn. But let's force the issue, and that brings him back. That's calculation, and in-game calculation is not easy. But let's go away and threaten this pawn with 2 pieces. Because if that knight is babysitting this pawn, then I can use the 2 of my pieces to clean up around here. And I've come with the bishop with a little bit of a plan of here. So I fully intend the a-pawn to become a queen but die, because the knight either dies or it moves out and it gets to die, capturing a queen. But now it's 2 pieces to no pieces. Pick up another pawn. King comes in. C-pawn comes forward. let's just take a look at what we have. That's kind of... One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3. Very hard for that black king to get around behind, just with none of my other pieces moving. And if it does start going that way, the B pawn can queen. And I can bring my king, and already that pathway for the black king to get around behind. Sorry for doing this, but just what pieces are barred from that black king. It's in a relatively tiny box that it can't leave, and it can't get to my half of the board. So it's just a matter of keeping that king boxed up. And now I could queen both the F and the H pawn, but just out of deciding for a bit of practice, decided, and on this last move here, for what it's worth, Stuart, I don't know how much better it is, but being on a square that's not check when I queen, and in fact I would need to think carefully about making it into a queen to make sure, if I had a queen here, the bishop covers that way, you would have D7 and C7, so it wouldn't quite be stalemate. But often you've got more chances if when the promotion happens you're not in check. So check with the knight. I thought I'd try and check with these three pieces and the pawns. Check. And then a pretty sweet checkmate moving the knight. So the queen covers these, the knight covers the actual check, the bishop covers these, and this pawn is helping, and this pawn is helping. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces making the little mating net. So that was kind of cool. So it came from, I think, was it move 12? If you drop a piece, then you definitely, in general, want to try and make it crazy chess, not slow, methodical, like a Glacial coming, which is what I was trying for, which the Hippo is well suited to. You were hoping for pieces going everywhere, crazy stuff. I was able to pretty much stop that from happening too much. 85.2 to 80, pretty good. If you have a look, I mean, one blunder was offering me the pawn that I didn't take right at the start. The second blunder was that bishop. So, but without those two blunders, a lot of best and excellent and good moves and book moves, far more than the inaccuracies, and we all have some of them. One miss went with that first blunder, not taking that pawn. But so I've just played no great, no brilliancies. It was a very slow, incremental improvements win, which is actually something, if you look at my video from last week, do no harm. It's what I was hoping for to do with my game. So anyway, Stuart, and indeed all other watchers, subscribe and like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time.